Yes, thank you for having me. I'm happy to show the slides as soon as I get a clicker, which I believe the tech folks have. Indeed, I'm based in San Francisco, and I'm happy to be here among this esteemed panel. I can briefly touch, before I start the slides, on the points about China and ChatGPT. Why haven't they invented ChatGPT? I agree that the culture has played a major role. China is very insular, and their own censorship means that there's far less training data for a chatbot than there is data in English, because essentially I wanted to build a Chinese chatbot.
I think it's that.
Thank you. And data was far less extensive. However, Baidu released ErnieBot this morning, though apparently its share stumbled. I haven't had time to check the news. So it was a successful release, but they are a formidable adversary to the US. And if the slides work, I can go into details.
Anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extreme.
I'm not sure where the display is.
Right here.
Oh,
Anything that cannot be digitized or automated.
OK, so I'm going to start with a video that was released in 2016 about digital transformation.
Anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being.
So now we are in 2022, and we still thought that creativity and imagination were some of the last human characteristics that separated us from machines. But then we had ChatGPT being released in November last year, and people were wondering if I'm still a creative human now that ChatGPT exists. And then the makers of ChatGPT, OpenAI, which are in San Francisco, where I come from, have also released an image generator called DALL-E, which generates some fantastic imagery. And again, it challenges the idea that creativity is uniquely human. So those predictions from 2016 did not age well, which means I'm not going to venture into very detailed ones. I'm going to keep it to maybe the next couple of years. And indeed, 2 days ago, the next version of ChatGPT was released, and now it understands humor, which, again, we thought was something uniquely human. Also, this new version of ChatGPT is several times as good as the previous one at taking tests, including the SAT test, which I had to take to move to the US. So this is me a few years before that SAT test. And I was asked to expand on my journey in Silicon Valley. This is basically what I did in the past 18 years in Silicon Valley. Of particular interest is my work in the mobile web at Google. So I had a chance to see how e-commerce and a lot of time spent on mobile has greatly expanded. Then I had exposure to the metaverse in 2018 through a cryptocurrency news startup, CryptoClimate. And then last year, I transitioned to AI with my work at Weaviate, which is basically a search engine similar to Google, but for our own data. However, the Silicon Valley isn't the only mecca of AI research, and there is a visible shift of power from the US to outside the US. China and Europe lead this shift, and especially China, while it does have some problems with insularity and censorship, they also have a very definite government initiative, their 5-year plan, which has a very clear goal of becoming a world leader in AI by 2030. And you can see that they had a tremendous growth in research papers, and they also collaborated with the US, which is a fantastic advantage. This slide goes into details about the situation in terms of AI research papers between the US and China. So the rate of growth in China has been higher, even though the US still has the lead numerically. Also, in terms of unicorn companies, China is rapidly approaching the US. Then we have Europe, which has committed investments through the Horizon and Digital Europe programs. And more importantly, they have a unified data strategy. So it's going to be interesting to see how this competition plays out. And then there are these other countries that are the top 10, according to the Global AI Index. We can see there Israel, Singapore, and France, which had the institute that I mentioned in the previous slide. Then an interesting fact is that Brazil and India have tripled their hiring in AI over the past 5 years. There's also a VC shift away from the US, with China investing more and more in AI companies. But overall, the important fact is that over the last couple of years, the private investment in AI has doubled, and it reached almost $100 billion in 2021. And this is where I see an opportunity for Romania, because the largest growth sectors and functions within industries are something that Romania has specialized in, and that is IT services. Broadly, we saw an acceleration thanks to the pandemic, or due to the pandemic, in particular in e-commerce. And then I was asked to talk about the metaverse. This was a hot topic that was slightly dampened by Meta pulling out of the metaverse in February to focus on AI. So kind of we know where to put our attention into the future. Then obviously it has the well-known opportunities. We've seen things like virtual concerts. This is Marshmallow in Fortnite. But what scares me is the potential for addiction that the metaverse has, which combines addiction to video games with addiction to social media. And as a society, we should pay particular attention to this. Then everything else is, again, well-known: virtual crime, economic inequality, and ID theft, and so on. So as I mentioned, I'm going to focus on more imminent things rather than try to make long-term predictions, because this is a very fast-moving industry. So we all know about the benefits of the AI, but what's probably more important right now is to focus on the dangers, because the technology is easy to let loose and get out of control. These are, again, long-term dangers, but these are some imminent ones, which we've already seen happening with ChatGPT in particular and other similar systems, these so-called large language models.
Dan, sorry, just to interrupt. I'm really sorry, because the slides are great. I know the minister has to leave for an urgent appointment, so we're going to come back so you can finish. But I just wanted to give the minister an opportunity to make some observations, having heard all our speakers now, just to make some final points. And I'm sorry if we've kept you.
No, I'm sorry to be the one interrupting your presentation. And really, they're the ones doing all the great work. I think the role of government is just to enable your efforts, and frankly, what has happened in Silicon Valley is exactly that, the private sector taking the lead and really taking humanity forward. Going beyond the example of Romania, just very brief remarks on my end. I think that we see a lot of disinformation campaigns, even here, instrumented by our quote-unquote friends in the neighborhood, related to new technologies, and they exploit basic human fears. We don't trust what we don't know. We're fearful of change. And so even in what we've done in our government, the cloud project, the new cybersecurity law, and thank God we have it since 2 days ago, and it's a huge leap forward. It was a law that could not be passed for 10 years. And now Romania has one of the most modern legislation on cybersecurity and cyber intelligence. And so, in our experience, technology was the answer. Just one quick example on the cloud, we essentially regulated a journaling and notification module. When the government will access your data as a citizen, you will know that, you will be notified. And there's a trace that is left, and it's indelible. So nobody can access your data without you knowing. And that made people trust this new technology, and I think it's key to bring citizens with us in this digital transformation, combat disinformation campaigns, and really help technology or use technology to further boost trust in our governments and democratic legitimacy. Just to close, I want to give a huge round of applause to commend Ukraine for what they've done. I've recently met the Deputy Minister of Digitalization, and she presented DIA, this amazing application. So I think that's an example of how a country in the middle of conflict can use digital transformation to leapfrog, to boost growth, to connect citizens to government. And so really now, not just Romania, but all of Europe, we're learning from your example. So thank you and congratulations, and thank you again for this opportunity.
This technology that can basically generate highly tailored text is extremely powerful to create not only mass misinformation, but also very targeted persuasion campaigns. So imagine you land on the page of some e-commerce retailer, and it knows exactly what you bought, and the virtual avatar can start talking to you, simulating a human face. And if you talk to customer support using your webcam, it can read your micro-expressions. And this is not science fiction. This is a technology that's being commercialized right now with chatbots that interpret your facial expressions and can detect how you react to anything they say. So you'll have to really, really use your willpower to resist buying stuff in the very near future. ChatGPT is currently obviously used for good and has a number of applications. The most interesting one I found was solving this blank page problem. When you want to start on something but don't know exactly how, you ask it a question. It will be 70% wrong or incomplete, but it gives you a starting point. And that's actually how I developed these slides. It has even been used for sermons, which is one unexpected use case. And to end on a more positive note, I still think some jobs will maybe never, hopefully, be touched by this technology. And what's important is to maintain our emotional intelligence and try to work with the machine, adopt the technology as a tool rather than try to fight it. Thank you.